Welcome to the Michael Singer podcast, presented by Sounds True, in partnership with Shanti Publications. For more information about Michael Singer's work, access to all prior episodes, and information about upcoming releases, we invite you to join us at michaelsingerpodcast.com.
Jai Gurudev and Jai Masters. There are so many techniques that we get taught about how to grow, how to find God, how to become enlightened. When you become wise and you stop with all the spiritual ego stuff and all the supposed to do's and not supposed to do's, the yamas, niyamas, good, bad, right, wrong, you start to catch on that there's only one problem, and that's the ego. The foundation of life is consciousness. Someday, and I hope I teach it all the time, I hope you understand that the scientists are just one hair away from finding exactly what the great masters found when they went into deep meditation. I don't know how they don't live it. I don't know how they don't catch on in their daily life that they are teaching you there's nothing here. It's not what you see, period. The closest I get to that really moves me is I tell you, if you get up close to a flat screen TV while you're watching a movie, I don't care what the movie is, good, bad, right, wrong, X-rated, R-rated, PG, I don't care. There it is on the screen. Get up close to that screen and look really, put your nose right up to that screen. And you're not going to see the movie. You're going to see dots called pixels. Nowadays, with 4K TV, the dots are really small. It's sometimes hard to see them, but basically you will see dots. And that's what's there. And you say, no, wait a minute. Is there a movie there or are there dots there? That's like the question I used to ask you guys. I have water in my hands. All right, I'll go further down. I have H2O in my hands. That's water, hydrogen, oxygen. Do I have H2O in my hands or do I have water in my hands? Or do I have electron, neutron, and protons in my hands? Atoms. Don't answer me. Just pay attention. There's no answer to that, is it? It's all the same. Water, H2O, hydrogen, oxygen atoms, electron, neutron, protons. That's what you're doing when you go up close to the screen on your TV. Is there a movie there? Or are there pixels there? Are there dots there? That's exactly the same. Are they atoms? Or is it water? That's as spiritual as it gets, guys. Because your mind won't let you do that. Because the truth of the matter is, they're pixels. The fact that when you step back, your senses average those pixels so that you see a movie, that's an illusion. There's really pixels, all right? There's dots on that screen. But we get caught up in the perception that we see, right? Einstein himself said the following: life is a total illusion, but a very persistent one. The fact that you see it this way all the time is where your ego comes from. If you saw it as pixels, you would not have an ego because there's no difference in those pixels. You're not saying, I like that one. I don't like that one. That one's male. That one's female. That one turns me on. That one turns me off. Would you? This is what all of spirituality, all the great masters are trying to teach you. Yes, you have eyes and ears and touch and taste. And they pick up those pixels, those atoms, and by the time they send them back to you, they're averaged. And so you just see this blur called this room. It's really very blurry. What's really happening are those pixels, those dots are very clear, right? Then you step back, it's blurry, and you see these people, all that stuff. And then you develop in your mind a universe inside your head about the illusion, the blur that you're seeing. That is the fall from the garden. You just fell from reality, which is just dots, atoms, into the illusion that your senses are sending back to you. Well, big deal. So what? That's nice. The trouble is you develop these things called concepts. I like this one. I don't like that one. I want this. I don't want that. I freak out over that. I bliss out over that. The pixels? I could stop now and send you home. You need to do some work on yourself because you're not dealing with reality. Do you understand that? I'm telling you the truth. How do I know it's the truth? Because science is telling me. I told you, in the world you live today, your scientists are your priests. Why? They're objective and they don't have anything going. And they're sitting there looking down there and seeing, oh, there's molecules. There aren't things, there's molecules. Oh, there aren't molecules, there's atoms. You should know this now, I teach you, all right? No, there are not atoms. Well, there's atoms like there is water, hydrogen, oxygen, there's these things called atoms, but we found out that they're made of something. They're not the basic, the pixel, by the way, is not really a pixel. It's a light beam. There's a very fine ray of light making each one of those pixels. Well, they got down there and said, well, they're not really atoms. They're made out of something. What are they made out of? They're made out of electron, neutron, and protons, which is as far as we went in school. Now, some of you guys are younger. Maybe you went further. I hope you did. Why? Because they're not made of electron, neutron, protons. Those are not the basic elements that are making things because they're able to break those up. And we just do it very quickly. They bombard them in miles-long colliders, and they bombard protons against each other, and they break up. They're made out of something, and that's what quantum physics is. They break it up, and they find out, no, they're made out of quarks, leptons, and bosons. Okay, just words, doesn't matter. You don't have to know, but they broke into a finer apparent particle, electrons and quarks, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, fine. And they defined them. 2 up quarks and a down quark make a proton, 2 down quarks and an up quark make a neutron. So they're made of something. Then they went further, which I just love it. And I love teaching it to you. Why? Because it's the truth. I said, go back. Am I holding water or am I holding electrons or protons? It's the truth. It's just a deeper truth. Correct? Spirituality is supposed to be the deepest thing. That's where they took you. So what do you mean there are no subatomic particles, quarks, leptons, and bosons? They said, no, that's not really what's down there. What we found out, and you should just get it once, right, is they're really wavelets in a field. There's a total field. And just like dropping a leaf into a still water, it makes ripples. There are fields, the quantum fields, they're omnipresent, they're everywhere. And then they vibrate, they become agitated, and they make little wavelets. And those wavelets are really what an electron is. There is no electron. There's just a wavelet that's behaving like a particle. They average out, they interact with each other, and so they make these quarks, leptons, and bosons. But they're just wavelets. And that's exactly what the yogis taught you. Back you go to the Upanishads, they said it's all made of a vibration. There was nothing, and then a vibration happened, and that vibration of light interacts and creates everything. Well, that is exactly what they found. And you're liking things and not liking. Which of those wavelets do you like? But why are you laughing? That's what's really there. It is not what you see. What you see is a lie. What you see is Maya. What you see is illusion, delusion, and error. That's actually what's there. Well, why do I want to know that? It liberates you. You don't have to make things be the way you want. There is no want. There is no not want. There's no anything. There's just these little wavelets in these fields. And because I'm there, I'll just say it once. Well, why is it quantum physics? Why do they call it quantum physics? You know what a sine wave looks like? Goes up and down, up and down. You've seen them. That's not really. These wavelets are really individual segments that are very specific. Maybe the segment is 1 to 10 energy, and this one's 15 to 20. Well, there is no, I'm just making these numbers. There is no 11 through 14. They're just completely same segments that, because you step back, they look like waves. That segment is a quantum. That's why it's called quantum physics. And that segment is what looks like a particle. So a photon is one little segment of a wave in the electromagnetic field. And then there are other segments and other segments. That's why you have blue, green, all right, that's enough. right? But you get it. Do you see it? That's where they're at. They're down at that level, looking at those waves. Like they said, there is no electron. They make a big deal out of that. It's not like there's a little ball that's circling around a nucleus. No way. There's these wavelets, hundreds of billions and zillions of them interacting together. And because they're statistically, they end up making a behavior that acts like an electron. There, I did it. That's how nothing this is. This thing you're getting uptight about, this thing that you like, that you don't like. You understand? This is literally the most spiritual discussion you will ever have, because it dares you not to believe in something, but to accept what the scientists found. How can they be against science? We're so close to every single thing the great masters have taught. There's really nothing here, but our senses average it out. And then what happens? We get caught. That's what happens. We see it in this form of a movie when it's not. And then we develop in our minds, we have minds, we develop in our mind all kinds of concepts and views and opinions and preferences and hopes and dreams. How can you have hopes and dreams about a wavelet on a quantum field? Gee, I wish it did that. You understand? But everything it's doing is what makes this be here right now. It's not true that God created the heavens and earth. God is creating at this very moment, or it's not here. That's what's coming out of those fields. Why do I say God? I've discussed this with you. I said they're just a hair away from the great teachings. Why? They have said that these fields, these quantum fields, are omnipresent. They're everywhere throughout the universe. They're what black holes are. They're what sun is. They're what moons are. They're what every single thing is. It all comes out of those fields, everywhere. I told you once, but prior to reading that stuff, I never heard the word omnipresent used for anything but God. God's omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Well, all of a sudden, science is using the word omnipresent. Oh my God. This is getting fun. That means everything in the universe comes out of those fields. Exactly the same. Okay? What about omnipotent? I'm not going to get into the quarks, leptons, and bosons, but some of the wavelets make these subatomic particles quarks, and some of them make electrons, and then some of them are called bosons. They are the force ones. What do you mean? Well, what is electromagnetism? It's a force. And when you interact it with the other ones, it pulls things together. That's what makes quarks, actually not. The fact that two up quarks and a down quark get pulled together into a proton is done by what they call the strong force. It pulls them together. It's a force. It comes out of those waves. There's a type of wave, forces. They haven't proved gravity, but they say gravity, strong force, weak force, and electromagnetism. Those are the forces that make up the universe. They come out of that field. That means that field's omnipotent. It is the cause of every single that's created. There's no other force in the universe. It's all powerful. So it's everywhere. And what they don't get, but the yogis did, and I'll tell you how, is that that field is actually conscious. Oh, I cry. I'm sorry. I make my mind live there. No matter what I'm doing, I'm looking at those fields. Not literally. I'm not there yet. All right. There are great masters that were, all right? But it's like, I just reminded my mind is very kind. I taught it. You're really looking at these fields, and the fields are made of consciousness. What does that mean? It means that if you ask a quantum physicist, fine, you've figured it out. There's these agitations or activations in these fields, and you give it that. Give a quantum physicist that field, that wave, it can build the universe. It's pretty far out. We're pretty smart folks. Knows how to pull it together, and this, that, a couple of holes, but basically they can build a whole universe from there. If you ask what is the quantum field, they will tell you, I have no idea. That's not our job. Our job is to explain why things that we perceive, what are they made of? And they're made of these wavelets. What if the quantum field wasn't vibrating? What if it was at its base state? I think they generally tell you that they could never see such a thing. How could they ever find that? Because then nothing exists. In other words, Brahma, the unmanifest. How close are we getting for those of you who know the teachings? Non-duality, ever heard those words? Isn't that what they're describing in the field itself? When it's not differentiated at all and there's no wavelets? That there's a field, a non-dual field that's omnipresent, omnipotent throughout the universe? Well, the yogis know what they don't know, and they may never know. That field is a field of consciousness. It is aware of itself. It is doing this. No, now we're talking about God. Okay, if you do that. How would the yogis know that? Thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. They wrote this stuff. Why? Well, there's one thing about consciousness that's very funny. You're conscious. You may not know about the quantum fields, but you know about consciousness, don't you? You're a conscious being. You're aware of things. They went into that state. They stopped paying attention, having their consciousness be distracted by all this at any level, and just got back to consciousness itself. And every one of them that did that experienced themselves as the universe. They experienced themselves as that field. Read Autobiography of a Yogi, the chapter, My Experience in Cosmic Consciousness, Yogananda wrote. When he reached that state for the first time, completely let go of himself, and it's called merger. The word yoga means union. Union of the individual self with the overself, with the whole. He merged into it. He said, I felt every galaxy was my body. I was expanding at the speed of light in every direction throughout the universe. Meher Baba said the same thing. The great ones merged. What does it mean? It means they are that field of consciousness that is emanating the whole universe. They asked Meher Baba once, because Meher Baba was a very great being. They called him an avatar. But they asked him, Baba, who are you? Because they felt his power. They saw who he was. They saw what was going on. So they asked Meher Baba, who are you? You know what he said? I was in the beginning before all else was created. I will be in the end after all else falls away. There was never a time I was not, and there will never be a time that I'm not. In other words, I am that I am. Isn't that what the flaming bush said to Moses? When Moses asked him, who are you? He said, I am that I am. I am that which is, always was, always will be, has no beginning, has no end, just is. And even the scientists today, the ones that go beyond just being willing to talk about what they know, if you ask these ones that are, that study all this stuff, what was before the Big Bang? They all know what the Big Bang. Well, now you can think about the Big Bang as the original vibration that caused the field to vibrate. In other words, Om. Isn't this the teaching? Look at how they tie together. And I read a couple of things. They asked, well, what was there before the Big Bang? You know what they said? That which was there has always been there and will always be there. It is infinite and eternal. There's nothing to talk about. It's that which is. Then the Big Bang came, creating the universe. Oh my God. That's a scientist talking. Is that beautiful? So you have just consciousness. I know it's difficult. It's always been there. It's just that which is. There was no time that it wasn't, and never be a time it won't be. It is what is. I am that I am. There it is. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahma. So basically, the yogis knew this way before they had, the Large Hadron Collider and CERN or anything. How? They let go of what they were conscious of, so that they melted back into consciousness itself. And they were that field. They are that field. Christ said, my Father and I are one. That's the merger. Right. There's your foundation of spirituality. I wouldn't mind one iota if you looked at it that way. The fact that you are intelligent enough that your mind, your impersonal mind, your abstract mind, is capable of touching what we just talked about. But it's still mind. But wait till you see when you start training your mind to think about truth. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. You start thinking like this, yes, your personal mind's still going to have this, all right? But the personal mind's tiny. Your mind is capable of what we just talked about, isn't it? It's capable of comprehending really big things. But we keep it to this tiny little thing, which we're going to talk about today. I don't want to talk about this, but I did. But it's good that you know that. Why? Because your mind, every one of you are capable, at least reasonably, of understanding what we just talked about. My God, that's unbelievable. You've expanded your mind beyond yourself, beyond the personal self. Why? Because your personal mind is just a tiny little drop of what mind's capable of. It can study physics. It can go build rocket ships. It can do everything, right? And it can also complain because things aren't the way I want them to be. And I wish she would like me instead of him. And I can't believe what she said. And oh my God, how could you say, how should I tell anybody? Oh my God, that's what you're doing with that mind? Instead of what we just talked about? Oh my God, help. That's ridiculous. So you are capable. Well, but it's still mind. But there's a type of yoga, branches of yoga called Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is the yoga of wisdom. It is the masters taught you to think like this. You can have high-level thoughts. Well, why? There's still thoughts. Yeah, but they're really close to God. You will get to a point when you learn to look outside. Look how beautiful it is. There's sun and there's light and there's clouds and there's colors and there's trees and no, there's not. There's vibrations in the quantum field. Oh my God. Ever say thank you? You can change your whole life to start to look at things with truth, but you have to bring your mind up to that level. But we're taught mind is the problem. Well, Ramakrishna, fully enlightened being, he saw light. His disciples once asked him, Master, you do really weird things. He was invited to the prime minister's house. He was a very, very famous yogi master, and was invited to the prime minister's house for dinner. And he got up and started singing and drooling and just being ecstatic, right? And his disciples, they're trying to build an ashram here. What's going on here? I get the prime minister. They asked him, how can you do that? Don't you get embarrassed? They would talk to him that way. They'd yell at him. It's adorable, right? You know what he said? You know how you said you see apparitions, sometimes ghosts, kind of coming and going? That's how I see your world. I just see blinding light shimmering all over it. And every once in a while, a building that you're talking about will start to take form, then fade away back into the light. So basically, you get to the point, and what I was going to say, what Ramakrishna said about mind, not ego mind, right? He said the purified mind is no different than the self. I'm talking to you really high today. The purified mind is no different than the self. What does that mean? Mind is a field of energy that is capable of forming thoughts. And then we'll talk about it. You get caught in those thoughts. What if the mind is pure? It's not creating these stupid little thoughts. Well, then it's no different than the self. It's just one field of energy, mind, consciousness, everything. If it stops developing these personal thoughts and drawing you into them, so you stay caught in that, you're very close to God. So very, very high thinking that's impersonal, that has nothing to do with you personally, what you like and what you don't like and what you want and what you don't want. Okay? You're getting back to pure consciousness because there's nothing drawing your consciousness away from itself because you're not all caught up in yourself. Right now, you're distracted by your thoughts. You don't know how not to be distracted by your thoughts. That's why you meditate. I told you, start by saying there's so many techniques. I'm giving you a totally different technique. Don't call it meditation. Call it Jnana Yoga. Liberating your mind by raising your thoughts to such a level that they're not personal. You don't get drawn into them. And in fact, at some point, you will think the way I just talked to you about, you'll go into ecstasy. When you can just, in your mind, see that what you're seeing is this field vibrating, God emanating from the base up, and it looks like this. How great. They say, God, how great thou art. Give me a break. Everywhere throughout the universe, that's happening. That's what everything is. It's just you become silent. It drops off and you go into ecstasy. So that is yoga. And that's why the purified mind is no different than the self. Because if you're not creating thoughts that are disturbing and distracting and drawing you down into them, which all your personal thoughts are, all these personal thoughts, they draw your consciousness down into them instead of allowing your consciousness to expand to what it's capable of. So where do your thoughts come from? I said the mind is a field of energy that is capable of creating thoughts. You can create thought forms. They create thoughts. You can visualize something. You can have a voice in your head talking about something. Those are thoughts. They're thoughts in the field of mind. Where did yours come from? It's so easy to talk about. Science helps me so much to teach spirituality. Why? Let's go to psychology. What does psychology say? They go way further than they should. They say, here it is, basic tenet of psychology. Man is the sum of his learned experiences. Just take a breath. Man is the sum of learned experience. Obviously, they mean women also. A person is the sum of their learned experiences. No, I'm not. I'm the consciousness, the witness, consciousness, that's aware that my thoughts and my emotions are the sum of learned experiences. And don't you dare think they're not. They're the sum of your learned experiences. Like somebody. There, my thoughts. I like them. I feel emotion, feel love. There it is. That's what's going on here. All right. See an article in the newspaper about them that says they're a mass murderer and they finally found them. How you doing? Same thoughts? Same emotions? The sum of your learned experiences. And then find out it was April Fool's Day and a friend gave you that paper. How you feeling now? The sum of your learned experiences. You did not decide what you like. You did not decide what you don't like. It is the sum of your learned experiences. If your parents were different, if this was different, just genetics has something to do with it also, right? Part of your learned experiences. Carried them down with you. But the main thing, psychology, is your mother did this, your father did this. Experience. Have you had some experiences in your life? How many? Count them. I want to know. I'm talking about every little experience. How many experiences have you had? Your personal mind is the sum of your learned experiences. All my learned experiences? No, white lines in the road go by all the time. You don't make a thing out of them. You don't develop a self-concept out of the white lines or the clouds or air or lots of things. In fact, 98%, maybe 99% of every single thing that ever came into your senses went right through. You're walking down a field. There's a big field. There's grass, there's dirt, there's clouds, there's sky, there's trees, there's leaves. There it is, right? And then there's a rattlesnake. Guess what? You know that song? I only have eyes for you, dear. All you saw was that rattlesnake, innit? All you saw was that rattlesnake. And when you go to tell somebody what happened, you don't talk about the grass, you don't talk about the trees, you don't talk about the clouds. Like that rattlesnake was 0.1% at the most of everything that was coming through your senses. Take a breath. I'm teaching you something very deep here. This is how to transcend and go really deep in spirituality. It's true what I said, isn't it? So that which makes the biggest impression on your mind stays, whether you liked it a lot or didn't like it a lot. If it was just passing through, it does a very great thing. You're be here now. About the trees, about the cars, about this, about everything. You just be here now. You're just experiencing. It comes in, it goes through. Until there's a tree that looks like the one you fell out of when you were little, and all of a sudden you're telling everybody about it, and then you have nightmares. Now you see why I say at least 99% of every single thing ever came through your senses throughout your entire life, you were very zen about. It just went through. Flowers are red, water's blue, grass is green, very zen. Well, everything just was what it was, wasn't it? And it didn't cause any trouble, did it? It just passed through. But then there are these things that made a bigger impression. You want to go deeper? Why? Who separated those out? Because I guarantee you right now, what you stopped over, he didn't. And what he kept, you didn't. In fact, if I took his mind with his preferences and hopes and dreams and concepts and put them inside your head, you go, what the hell are you doing? What do you care about that for? Oh, I don't care about that. Why are you afraid of snakes? I like snakes. My family had snakes. My brothers had snakes. We used to play. And you're not going to go into a field ever again. You're going to take a walk. The sum of your learned experiences. Basically, that is what is going on in your head, is the sum of your learned experiences. And that's what keeps going on. And every day new ones come in, and you develop what psychology calls a self-concept. What is a self-concept? It is something in your mind. In this field of mind, you can build thoughts. Some thoughts come in and they go right through. Some thoughts come in and they stay a little bit. Now, I was going to tell you, how come yours stayed and yours didn't? What's going on? What makes it stay? Is it really like super glue when it gets in there and it does this thing? I told you, I'm getting much more open. I used to be a 60s hippie guy, all right? But now I respect everybody, the military, everything. I respect people doing their thing. There are people who, when they go to war, that when they're running across that field with bullets shooting at them, they get traumatized. I think it's very reasonable. But anyways, they get traumatized. They come back with PTSD and so on. And they don't have nightmares. And there are other people that keep signing up, right? They love it. That danger, that thing. Well, what's that? I don't understand. Either it is this way or it's not that way. See, I'm teaching you something. It's neither. It just is what it is. But what happens? What makes it stay inside one person and not inside the other? There's only one force. We have all these forces outside. There's only one force inside. Will. You have will. Do you have the ability to push away a thought? Do you have the ability to say, I don't like this, and try to keep it? Do you have the ability to push away a feeling, an emotion? Do you have hands in there that can manipulate your inner stuff? You're different than everybody. You've evolved to different levels. I'm not saying somebody who can handle bullets is more evolved. I'm not judging any of it. I'm just telling you, your consciousness that is focusing on your thoughts and emotions is individualized. Ultimately, it's the same consciousness. There's one consciousness, but it's focusing. It's a ray focusing on your thoughts and emotions. And basically, some people are comfortable with what's going on one way and not another. When you're not comfortable with it, when it hits you in a way that is not comfortable to you, you push it away. Don't you? You don't want it. I don't like it. And you do, Freud called it suppression. The psychology and physics are all about spirituality. If you understand them properly, okay? Every single thing that's truth is part of spiritual. So Freud talked about suppression, repression, denial. I talk about resistance. There's just the level of degree. What happens when you're in there and you resist an event that actually took place, came in through your senses? It stays in there. That's why it stays. It's so easy to talk to you about this. You don't need books. It's not complicated. You resisted. You used will. Don't ever let them tell you don't have will. There's a whole field of psychology now, somebody told me about it, that says, oh no, you don't have will. What they're saying is, since your psyche is the sum of your learned experiences, it's not some personal act of volition or will. It's that sum of your learned experiences acting. And guess what? They are right to a great degree. You're a being of habit. If something happens, you see the snake, you're going to behave accordingly because you saw a snake different in youth, et cetera, et cetera. You can change that in a minute. You are in there. You're transcendent to everything you're looking at. That's what witness consciousness is. Now we get to spirituality. Can you see that you're afraid of a snake? Yeah, all this fear comes up. Can you stay calm in the midst of that fear? Do you have to behave based on what your thought or emotion is doing? You're married. You go take tennis lessons and he's really cute, okay? And you feel some attraction come up inside of you. Do you have to run after it and leave your family? Answer me. Are you capable of asserting will? But normally, unfortunately, what you do with that will, might as well talk about it, is push it away. And this is wrong. I shouldn't do this. It's wrong. That is not the proper use of will, because that creates suppression. What does that mean? It means just don't dream about the guy, right? It means when someone says, you want to take tennis lessons with me? You say, no, I had enough tennis. Wait, why are you laughing? It messed you up. You suppress something, and so now you can either be for it or against it, but you're going to be weird about it because you have this thing stored in there, and that's what they mean when they say they don't have free will. But you know you have free will. You know, a yogi knows the following, and then they'll say to you, if you don't do it, it's because your superego has been developed to not do it, so even that's a learned experience, and so it's just a combination of learned experiences determine how you act. Well, maybe that's true of the people they analyze. It's not true of a yogi or a yogini. Why? I'm in here, I see it, I see that it's uncomfortable, I see the tendency to push it away, and guess what I do? I keep my hands off of it because I don't want it stored inside of me. I don't care that there was this emotion. I don't care that there was this thought. Fine, a thought's a thought and emotion's an emotion. They're neither right nor wrong, nor good nor bad. If I can handle them, they just pass right through. I don't have to be weird about them anymore. And I actually grew. I grew spiritually because I was able to handle a situation that I used to have to resist. And so now I can see the guy that I felt attracted to and laugh. And I can go play tennis with somebody else because I'm not afraid of myself. Did you see the difference? You have will. You can use that will to let go instead of using that will to resist. Isn't that the essence of my teachings? That's everything I ever taught you in all my books. You can relax. You can use the will to relax against this tendency to resist. That's free will. You've now exercised free will. Okay? There's no pattern inside of you that's the sum of your learned experiences that is asserting that relaxation of letting go. You're letting go. And when you let go, it doesn't stay stored inside of you. Therefore, it does not become the sum of your learned experiences. Did you experience it? Yes. I learned I can handle this. I learned I'm fine. I learned that when I went to war and I did my first tour, that part of me that I don't necessarily want to devote my life to, like this stuff, but I don't, I think I want to let that part go. I want to use my energy for something higher than the fear of survival. Yeah, which is what's happening. It's first chakra stuff. Okay, perfectly fine. No judgment. You're not judging anybody else. You're just looking inside and saying, I see it. I see the tendency. I would like to raise that energy up, not suppress it, not push it down. It's called transmutation. That's a very deep spiritual word. I want to raise that so that it's coming higher, not going out at that level. Anybody understand what I'm talking about? Are you capable of doing that? That is free will. And what you're doing is evolving your being. Somebody once asked me, if consciousness is God, and it is, consciousness is God. That's what God is, consciousness. You just borrowed a little of his, or he focused on you, right? Then what is the evolution of the soul? How is God not perfect? God is perfect. And that's, you're talking so deep now. You're talking about the fall from the garden. So God is the universal consciousness creating all things, then looking down into what he created. So the consciousness manifests up, and then pure consciousness looks down into it, like an artist paints a painting and enjoys looking at it. You don't have to sell it. You don't have to do anything with it. It's just creativity. So God, with his creative force, expressed himself, created everything out of the vibration of his own being, right? That's all that's down there is vibrating consciousness. Just like you made your dreams out of your consciousness, okay? And it comes up, fine. So there it is manifest. But then the high consciousness, the pure consciousness, the unmanifest consciousness looks down into it. And that's who you are. You're so great, I can't even talk about it. You are the emissary, the ambassador, the emissary of God to experience the moment that he created, and he wants to see that moment. And you're the only one seeing it. I teach that all the time. The moments you see are the only one that ever saw them, and no one will ever see them, and no one ever did see them, and they'll never happen again. OMG. So it is God looking down into his creation through the manifestation of your eyes. He created the body, created the world, and looks down into it. And what do? No, I don't like it. He says, thanks a lot. I'm trying to experience these things. Who are you? Where'd you come from? Well, I came from that as you look down, my Lord, down into your creation, all is one. It's all the same thing. There's no duality. And when I looked down, things came up that I got caught. I got caught in what I was looking at instead of being the one who's looking. Instead of being the witness of what I'm experiencing, I got so close to it that I started being distracted by it and identifying with it, right? Are you your body? No, you are not your body. Are you your car? You laugh and say, there are some people that identify with their car, all right? You know, you touch on my car, I break your face. There are people that can't handle that somebody beeped at them in traffic. They get out with a gun, road rage. They're identified so much with something that they behave accordingly. There's no one in there dealing with it. So what happens is consciousness looks down and it gets distracted by form. That's the dance. That's the fall from the garden. So I am my body. I am the mother of this child. I am this. I am that. I am this person's wife. You are not. You're the consciousness that's aware of those things. That's why you have so much trouble with life. I'm his wife. No, I am the consciousness that met this person, felt love, and married them. That's who I am. The consciousness that had those experiences. I am not the experiences I had. I am the one that had the experience. But if I am his wife and he leaves me, I am in trouble. I feel that someone ripped me apart. I don't know. Wow, good. Some of you guys are therapists. You understand what I'm talking about, right? You know what you say now? I don't know who I am anymore. Ever been there? I lost my sense of self. I don't know who I am. I don't know. Of course you don't. You defined yourself as this person's mother or father or wife, husband, whatever the heck it is. And you literally defined yourself as that. That's who I am. I can't live without this person. I can't exist. They died. These are very, very human emotions. It's a very human state. Trouble is you're not human. You live with one. You're watching one. What happened? What happened is the consciousness that knows who it is. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma. Shiva Ham, I am Shiva. Tattvamasi, that thou art. Soham, I am he. Right? These are the great mantras. That's who you are. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma. Who's Brahma? Brahma is the unmanifest. Yoga Shakti taught us that in traditional India, there are no temples for Brahma. There's temples for Shiva, temples for Vishnu, Hanuman, everybody. There are no temples for Brahma. Whoa, why? Brahma's unmanifest. He's the unmanifest. He's the field before it vibrated. So therefore, you can't have something manifest for him. So you say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma. That's who you are. That's who you are. That pure consciousness that created everything and is everything and always was, looking down at itself. What happened? You got lost. That's the fall from the garden. How does God get lost? Because consciousness can get distracted, can't it? You get distracted. You know what you get distracted from? You. I was in here thinking about something, and then I heard a noise that distracted me. You're already so distracted, it's ridiculous. You're so distracted that you identify with what you're distracted by. That's a sentence. If I repeated it to you, you got it. I namaste. You are so distracted by the object of consciousness that you identify with it as who you are. Wow, that's pretty distracted, isn't it? Okay? That's a human. God distracted and identifying with what it's distracted by. Now, do you understand that? Do you see how I can say that? So, what do we do? Well, I know what you do, and I honor it. I respect it. You're in there, you're lost. You've had experiences. You identified with certain ones, and you built a self-concept. See, psychology. What is my self-concept? A set of thoughts that I say I am. Whoa, that's scary. You're not a set of thoughts. This is just thoughts. You created a set of thoughts. The ones that stayed were the ones you resisted or clung to because you liked them. Well, I can get into that. Don't you? When you like something, do you let it go? So if you don't like something, you stored it. If you do like something, you clung to it. And those are the things that make up your ego. Your ego is just a set of thoughts that you stitched together, that you held on to, and they're in your mind. And that's everybody's. I don't care. They're a wonderful person, terrible person. That's what's going on. That's when you stop judging. You are standing in the presence of the manifestation of the quantum field making up all 35 trillion of her cells, because they're all atoms, they're just vibrations and nothing. And God descended into it, having developed a self-concept. So you're standing in the presence of God who's lost in the sum of her learned experiences. Well, you're lost in yours. That's why you say she's wrong and you're right. And you argue with her. So now you understand what's going on, right? Now, what do you do about it? Let's get down to, remember I told you there's techniques? I just taught you, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, the highest technique you'll ever learn, how to live your life. I told you once, people teach meditation. You notice I don't. I meditate, but I don't teach meditation. Why? I teach what to do when you're not meditating. Do that, and you'll fall into meditation spontaneously. You live what I just talked about. You understand that now can you respect another person? No matter, even if they totally disagree with every single thing you do. They're the seminal learned experiences. Yogananda used to say, but by God's grace, there goes myself. If it's true that your thoughts and your opinions and your likes and your dislikes are the sum of your learned experiences, and you know darn well they are, how dare you judge somebody else? That's the sum of their learned experiences. That doesn't mean you can't still interact and be an activist and change things in accordance to how you see things, right? At your contribution to God's world, right? But there's a detachment there. It's not I'm right. It's called your dharma. The sum of my learned experience is a holy thing. They were my experiences. And I'm the only one that had them. So I'm going to interact with the world with love, with compassion, with understanding, with my Dharma, the sum of my learned experiences. Most people never read the Gita, which is fine. That is the essence of that book right there. It's like, fight the battle. God's telling Arjuna to fight a battle. How honorable is a battle that exists, unasked for, unwanted, by a trained warrior. This is your job. Don't do it to get anything. Renounce the fruits of your action. Just act in accordance to where you're put. Let me, God, let me run the world. Who said it? Right? Christ. Not my will, but thy will. If you understand this, I'm going to tell you, this is the highest path. I'm sorry. Because it's your entire life. It's what you're doing with your whole life. And you will find out you're living Christ's teachings. You're living the Dalai Lama's teachings. You're living Buddhist teachings. Even if you've never read them, you'll find out. If somebody wants to ask Yogananda when he came to America with a turban on his head in the 20s, are you a Christian? You know what he said? Follow me for a day and you tell me. That's beautiful. That's what you bring into this world. Okay, you still do your thing. You still be a mother. You still have a child. You have this, you have that. You get married or not, whatever it is. You're doing the thing, but not because you're not okay. This is the essence of what I teach you. You have fallen down into the sum of your learned experiences. You're identifying with your ego completely. That's what your self-concept is, your ego. And you're trying to do what? Make everything match the sum of your learned experiences. How would I say it that way? Okay, I'll be nice. I'm going to say make everything match your ego. Make everything match the sum of your learned experiences. Okay, so what's the way out? The way out is very, very simple. Raise your thoughts. You can have them. You can have thoughts. Raise them. Raise them up. Let God be God. How's that? Let God be that vibration, the one who created the vibration. He went Om in a Big Bang took place. And his whole being vibrated and all of creation came into being. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. How about that God? All you say is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You stop identifying with yourself. How do you do that? I'll give it so neat. I always only have time to lay down what you need to hear. All right? You're going to find out that you're going about your business, walking with some friends, and your mind's going to say, I want to talk about something. I wonder if I bring this up. That'll be interesting. Don't blush. Yes or no. Does it do that? Do you want to talk and be heard? That's your ego. It's just, I have a self-concept. I'm not comfortable if we're not talking. I'd rather talk about me. That's just, don't you dare be embarrassed. That's ego. Ego is about me. Period. It cannot be. I want my ego to be about somebody else. It will not. Here's how ego is about somebody else. If I'm nice to her, she'll like me. Ego is about you. That's what ego is about. It's about, I'm in here. I'm not okay. What do I need to do to make it better in here? It's about me. What if I donate a lot to everybody and everybody thinks I'm very charitable? Me. Now, listen to me. Don't listen to any of this. Just go about your business, but watch. Notice that tendency to sell yourself, to impress people. Do you like to impress people? Do you like people to like you? Do you like to have a lot of likes on Facebook? You think God cares? I mean, are you serious? He's everything. You're everything. You're the highest being ever walked the face of the earth, caught in this set of thoughts like you. How about, if you want to do a sadhana, I'll give you a sadhana. You wouldn't want to do it. I don't want you to do it, right? Let go. What do you mean? If you're sitting there walking with some people or being with some people and so on, and you get this tendency to want to talk about yourself or say something that interested you or do something, all right? How about not doing it? That's not comfortable. Good. See how uncomfortable you get and realize, wow, that's really there. That's really a very powerful thing, this psyche that's about me, that's got built in my mind, right? And I'm not telling you to go into silence. No, just once in a while, I dare you to play. Once in a while that somebody says something, God, did you put on some weight? And instead of, no, look at you. Does anybody see the tendency to be defensive? Answer me. That's ego, is it not? What if somebody said, God, it looks like you put on some weight? Yeah, thanks for pointing it out. That's it. Can you let go? That's how you let go of ego. You have the right to use every minute of your life to go to God. By the way, I don't like saying it like that. I like saying the right to use every moment of your life to stop leaving God. Because you are seated right there, right now. But you are focused on your garbage. Right? Start letting go. Well, we had a nice talk. Thank you. Work on yourself. Raise yourself. Raise yourself. Jagrif.
You've been listening to the Michael Singer Podcast, produced by Sounds True in partnership with Shanti Publications. For more information on Michael's body of work and all back episodes, please join us at michaelsingerpodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening. Sounds True, waking up the world.